Yo, 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 welcome back to the Get Into the Bag podcast. I go by Polo Show, and I'm with,
Sarah Jessie Tucker.
and yeah, this is season 4, episode 5. And we're just going to get into it. Sarah is a grant writer. She has her own business, and, we're going to talk about entrepreneurship and, just so much more. Let's get right into it.
All right.
So yeah, we know each other because myself and MC Good Medicine, we're working on a grant for a project that we have coming up that I'll keep on the hush for now. But yeah, like through that, Sarah introduced me to you, and you definitely assisted us um, in a lot of ways that allowed us to like get to the finish line with the grant. Submitted. We don't have word back yet, but it was a very smooth process. So yeah, I guess just want to ask you about your business and like how you got into this, you know, yeah, like what made you get into this business?
Grant writing kind of fell into my lap. I used to be a paralegal, doing personal injury litigation. And I ended up moving out to Glacian, Alberta, and got introduced to grant writing through a municipality. I really didn't know what grants were, but it really opened up my world. Very transferable skills from legal into grant writing, and I also have a artistic side to me, and so I was like, oh my goodness, I could get a grant to do a writing project. And so it began. Mhm.
And so you set up your own business doing this, and I guess how did you get into like that? It's one thing to know you have a skill, but like how did you get into, okay, I'm going to turn this into a business?
So I was getting out of the writer's studio at Simon Fraser University, and the pandemic hit halfway through the program. And I decided to, after the program was done, I decided to go into the social work program, schooling. And that was okay. It was a little difficult to be learning online. And I got an email from the school with a newsletter, and there was a little ad, and it said, "Have you ever wanted to start a side hustle? Have you ever want to started your own business? If so, come and sign up for this weekend thing, and you'll learn how." And so that's where it all started. And so I went to this weekend thing, and it was 150 startups. It was through Bow Valley College, and it was a pitch competition. And so you got into a group, and you helped the one entrepreneur go out and do some like research with not clients, but their prospective customers and stuff like
Right.
that. And it all started from there. And then one of the panel mentors within this weekend mentioned that there was a nonprofit that could help you start your own business. And it was all like free services. And so I just got curious and started talking to people. And through, it was a place called WeStem. They're not funded anymore. But they got me started, starting my business, helped me start my website. I did a Foundations of Digital Marketing course with them. And that's what really set me up. And I was like, okay, yeah, no, I really love this. I want to do more.
And so what kind of clients do you usually work with? I guess like what industries?
Yeah, so I work with nonprofits and artists. And so I'm more into the artist realm right now. Like I'm working with a film festival. I've got, a couple nonprofits, and then some artist grants and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. And so this is a hip hop music podcast.
Mhm.
I guess just tell us about your experience with music grants, and I guess any tips for like musicians.
Yeah, so I had some mentoring recently by a Toronto music arts grant writer,
Mm,
and you gotta love entrepreneurs. You reach out, they're very willing to help you out. And so she mentored me, and we got talking about like Factor. And so she was telling me recently with Factor that it's very oversubscribed, and it's hard to get Factor grants, but you can also get music grants through Canada Council for the Arts, and a few other places. And I think the biggest takeaway that I got from her um, is that if you're going after a grant, you have to bring your authentic self, especially in music, because
mm,
everybody's going after the same thing. Everybody wants the same thing. And so, how do you stand out? And so, the approach to grant writing, whether a grant's asking for an artist statement or not, because Calgary Arts Development, they'll ask for an artist statement within the grant, but then Canada Council won't ask you for an artist statement. But you still want to write it out and then weave that into your grant, but telling your story, like what brings you to music.
mm.
Yeah, and that's what's going to stand out to funders when there's that big stack of grants, right? Hmm.
Right. I hear that a lot. The story is so important.
Yeah, the story, and then like your goals and stuff. Um, we're all on a journey, and we're all developing. And so, where are you now? Where do you want to go? And set that up in your artist statement, and yeah, and bring part of your story, because I think some of the drivers of artists and musicians stem from your story.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. Yeah. That's definitely
I don't know if I answered that whole question, but
that's definitely like some gems. You just dropped some gems. That's what it is. So yeah, thank you for that. Um, yeah, so you're also a big music head, music fan. So I guess just asking you like, I guess what are like your top five like albums?
top five albums. um, oh my goodness. Shall I give you? Can I give you one more music grant tip?
Do it.
Okay. Um, so you often have to uh, put in like a resume and stuff.
Mhm.
So it's always good to put your picture in the grant somewhere.
Mm.
So, and looking into the camera of the grant, like not into the grant, but into the
Yeah,
camera. Like you
yeah.
want something straight on. So when the grantors looking through your stuff, they're like, oh yes, oh I must give this person money, right? Like
Yeah.
you want to reel them
You're
in.
like looking right at them.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
yes, like
Yeah, no, that's cool. It's a good tip.
yes. So make sure you put your picture on there. So favorite albums, oh my goodness. It's hard to put favorite albums. I will say my favorite artists coming from Toronto, it's
All right,
always
let's say favorite artist then. Top five favorite artists.
yeah,
Let's do
yeah,
that.
because
Albums might be hard. Yeah.
yeah, and sometimes on the spot, I'm like, "Wait a minute, what's that album name?"
Yeah, no, that's fair.
So yeah, coming from Toronto, it was always Biggie, Notorious B.I.G. comes first for me, and then Tupac came later. Um, yeah, growing up with them. Um, who else? I really like Kendrick Lamar. Um, And, uh, would Anderson .Paak, would we consider him?
Yeah, he's a hip hop artist. I guess like
Yeah.
he kind of like blends the world of everything. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
he's a cool
I'm
artist.
I'm really drawn to people's stories and stuff, like
Yeah.
Kendrick Lamar, he was or not Kendrick, Anderson .Paak.
Hmm.
He was a drummer in a church and stuff, and then he couch surfed for, like, 10 years, and then he finally like, as he was trying to make it as an artist and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm, like, really, yeah, motivated by people's, stories. Um, who else? That was 4. Um, yeah, maybe come back to me about there were a
All
couple more.
right, those 4 are fire. Like two old school and two like new school. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I approve of that list.
Do you?
Yeah,
Do you like Kendrick Lamar?
I do. Yeah,
'Cause
I definitely.
I was hearing maybe there was one album that you were like,
Oh yeah, no, there's definitely at this point like enough people have like debated me on that album, on my opinion on that album, that I'm like, maybe I'm just tripping and maybe that album is, but no, I still don't like the album, but like
what about
it's
his last
it,
album?
no, not his last album was okay. Like what the album in question is To Pimp a Butterfly.
Hmm.
And this is becoming a theme talking about this album. Like, but like I don't know. It's a good album. Like, it's inspiring, and like I get it, but it's just like it's not a hip hop album I'm listening to on the regular. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
it's and it's like why we and you know what? That's how I feel about that album. People love that album. People say that's a classic. That's one of Kendrick Lamar's best albums. Like all this and that. And I just feel like that's not really how I be feeling it. But that's what it
Yes.
is. Ultimately, I like Kendrick Lamar. Like, you know, I have to like him if I listen to that album. Like,
Yes.
yeah.
So a couple more are coming to me. Like The Roots. I really like The Roots.
The Roots, yeah.
Common. I really like Common. Erica Badu. I would love to see her in concert. That would be amazing. Yeah. Lost Boys. That was in high school. Yeah. Yeah. Good music.
Yeah. Um, so you checked out my album and you told me you had some feedback for me.
Yeah, yeah. I really liked it. I noticed there was a theme of um, it struggles through like love and age, thinking about, you know, you're getting to a certain age and what other kind of themes did I see there? Um Yeah, and that Being Alone song. I think my top 3 songs that I really liked, um, yeah, with Being Alone, Squad Goals, Pride. Um, and so I guess my question around, like this album, um, yeah, was there something that you were obviously kind of maybe working something out throughout this album? And, like, how long did it take you to do the album? Was it,
It took about 3 months to record and write the album.
mm,
So it's different from how I usually do it, because usually I would make a bunch of beats and then kind of arrange the beats as an album in my head and then write to all the songs and then record it. And that's always how I did music. But this is the first album I did in my own studio. So it was, it just seemed redundant doing it that way, because it's like we would make the beat and it's like we have the studio, so might as well just record the song right now. So, and that's how the album was done basically. So if we made a beat and we probably made a lot of beats, and maybe like 25% of them were beats that were like, okay, this is worth writing to.
Mm,
I would so we'd make the beat and we'd write the song and record the song in that same session. So it'd probably be like a 3 hour recording session.
mm.
And that happened over like 3 months. And I had like about 15, 16 tracks done, but then 14 tracks made the album.
Wow. Um, so does the beats influence, so do you get the words from like listening to the beats and
Yeah,
then their stuff?
100%. Um, yeah, the only song that's not like that is It's Not My Time. And I feel like it's still like, yeah, I had those words like for the chorus, and we came to the studio and we literally had to figure out the tempo I was singing it at and make
Mm,
the beat around what I was singing. But for the most part, and I feel like that's how it is in hip hop, you know, the producer and the writer become one to make the song, right? And so
mm,
that's usually how it is. It's usually a vibe that the producer has made this beat, he sampled whatever, and then that's how I see it. The words are usually like if you have something to say, the words are already on the beat.
mm.
So like yeah, most 99% of the time the music I make and it works. It's different in other genres, I'm sure, like, but the music I make, yeah, we have to have a beat before we know what the song is going to be about.
Okay. Neat. Um, yeah, so was this album like cathartic in any way? Like, did you feel like um you worked through some stuff? Like, did you feel a sense of like sort of like relief after
I
you
guess
did it?
I guess I don't know. I feel like it is like a very like vulnerable like album, like as far as the writing. I just feel like this is my second album. My first album, I spoke about my heart surgery and my journey into starting music like seriously as a career.
Yeah.
And I just feel like, like I'm just kind of in that lane now of just, I feel like when I'm writing, I just have to like, I'm just telling all like why not, I feel like that's the beauty of rapping, like it really is. When you're writing, it's just you and the mic. It's not, but when people are listening to it, it's like, oh shit, I said a bunch of stuff. Like,
And you get scared that you think, oh my goodness, what did I just say? But you end up having a lot of people relate to what you're thinking about. In my opinion, anyways.
yeah, no, that's so, I mean, that's the beautiful thing about writing, right? And like, and sharing that ultimately, because it is, yeah, it is scary, right? Like trying to, like putting, like being vulnerable and like putting that out there.
So when you released it, did you have that sort of like, oh God,
I
for
feel like I had the music for a while before I released it. So I was okay with like, I'd listen to it. And I guess like, I don't know. I guess yes, that'll never change. Like you'll always. I seen Dr. Dre says like when he puts out music, he never listens to it again. Like it's like now it's
mm,
for the world. Like they can say whatever, but like I'm not listening to it because I can imagine he'd probably be in the studio still changing stuff forever till the end of time. Like if he was listening to what people had to say, So I feel like you have to
yes.
have that. Like that's just part of being an artist. You have to get to the point where you put it out and people will love it or hate it. But
Mm.
you know, yeah, and I guess it is like it is free in putting, you know what I mean? If you write stuff and you put it out because then you feel like, all right, I've put this chapter here, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Worked it through and released it, and now it can be its own creation out there. Um, can you tell me about Squad Goals? That that song? I think that's the song where you talk about um that you like you're chasing your dreams and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, what was kind of like the inspiration around there? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only beat. So before I had the studio, I only had I made a couple beats that I was like I already had the theme of this album kind of. I knew I was working on my next album, but I had a couple beats that I was like, all right, this is like, maybe there were like 6 beats that I was like, all right, these might be something for an album. And I
Mm.
got in the studio, and I feel like why this album is special to me is because all my other albums I basically worked on by myself. Like I always had influence from other people, but it was for the most part like me like recording everything, producing everything, and just, putting my ear before I put it out. Maybe I had some people's opinion, but it wasn't like that with this project. I really had so my label mates, Lifted Ones, Infamy, and the only real one, Toro. And basically they're both musicians in their own right, like as far as rapping, and they're, engineer. Infamy is an engineer, and Toro is a producer. So I really had them the whole way with me. So I was never in the studio, like all these sessions where I'm recording. I was never in the studio by myself. And ultimately, like it's still me that has to write the raps and like direct the album and themes, but it was reassuring, like, and it was just little things like, okay, maybe this song is too long, or maybe this, you know what I mean? Maybe these bars are just kind of like, they could be tighter, like, or maybe this beat is not the right beat for this thing that you're singing about. This thing you're singing about is tight, but let's make the beat like tighter. And it's like things like that, I feel like allowed this album to be like as tight as it could be, because it's like, if it was just me, if it was just me that had to like be the quality control, there would have been a lot of things that like slid past that wouldn't have made this like as tight as it needed to be. So, going back to your question, or Squad Goals was the only beat that I had before I came to the studio, and I was working with everybody else to make beats that made the album. So that was the only beat that I made by myself. And I guess I played it because when I was like, oh, I'm working on my album, I played it for the guys, and I played all the other beats, and they were like, "Oh, these are whack beats. These are whack beats." And I played that one beat, and everyone was like, "Oh, this is
That's the
crazy,"
one.
And it was like, "All right, we're all gonna rap on this." Like, well, like
Yes.
this is the one. If everyone loves this, then like, yeah. And it was only fitting that the song is called Squad Goals, and
Right. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
about like it's about just winning with the guys, right? Like that's ultimately the goal. Like ultimately is to not just be up there by myself. Is to be like, all right, these I came here with people.
That's really cool. So it's it's a better experience having people with you on the album as opposed to like doing it all on your own. Um
100%. And I think moving forward, I feel like my first album, I didn't have any features. I didn't have any outside of in-house producers. It was just like everything was just done in-house, and it was like I'm happy with that project. I think it's still a great project, but
yeah.
like I feel like just just the ability to collaborate, and just with even with other things, there were so outside of just the two guys I worked on, like sometimes the bass line is sounding whack. Me and the other guy that can play the instrument can't play a good enough bass. We're gonna have someone who we know can play bass come in, and like just having the opportunity because of the studio, like to be able to like whatever needed to be tweaked on. If we can't do it, we can find people, or like get the talent in here that can get it done, because
Mm.
ultimately the goal is to make the best song we can make, right? Like, and so if and I feel like when you start making music like that, then you're not limiting yourself, because I don't know how many times like in with past projects or with past songs I made by myself where, oh, I can't play this instrument. I know as the producer, like this is what this needs to take the song to the next level. But I'm like, this is as far as I can produce the song too. I've done my best. It still sounds good, but I'm like, I just felt like now through collaboration, through knowing that, okay, knowing what this is missing, even if I don't have the skill set to get this done, I know that within collaborating, it can get done. And it's like, that is to me, I don't think I'll ever put out another project where I don't have a bunch of people like working on everything with me. Like that's how I see it going forward. Like, cause that's how to make like top tier music. That's how I see it.
That's beautiful. And and then you get like a synergy going with the people that you're working with too.
100%. There's just things like, and I don't know how to describe it, just like being in the studio with other people where it's like, it wouldn't have come up naturally if either one of us was doing this individually, or even if we were just kind of discussing over a group chat, like us being in the studio together and like, oh, we tried this, and then we both had that like, oh no, it has to be this note. And you know what I mean? Like it just completely changed from it's just how music is, you know. Sometimes it's a mistake we made and we just press something wrong on the keyboard and it's like, yo, that's the whole beat now.
Yeah.
We're changing the whole beat because this is so good now. But it's a great experience making music with other people. And I'll
Nice.
still always make music by myself. But like ultimately, I feel like, and that's like what all the greats do at this, you know what I mean? Every single album you see, they always have the liners. It's never just, I guess there was Prince who was like fucking doing everything himself. But like, but for the most part, like, you know, if you're trying to be a regular human being and like, you know, like, and make great music, you get people who make great music to like help you make great music.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um, what keeps you what keeps you going with music? 'Cause I know myself, like I'm a poet and a writer, and you have your goals and stuff, but sometimes, it's tough sometimes. And so what keeps you, you know, shooting for those goals, and like the squad goals, like what keeps.
I guess just ultimately this is just like a dream of mine. And I guess what started me back, I've always wanted to do music, and what started me back on this journey was just going through my surgery at 22 years old. I went through open heart surgery,
Mm,
and it was like to correct something that I was born with, but I'm so much better now. The surgery was a success, but just the process of going through that, um, it was like, you know, like when I was in recovery with all the other people that went through heart surgery, is like everybody was like over 60, you know, like people don't
mm,
people don't have to do that pretty young.
yeah.
So it was just, I don't know, it was just a really like spending just time in there. Like I had to like, I was away from the world for a while, like just to recover. It just, it just helped me like value like my time. Like when I'm like, all right, I'm back on my feet. Um, what am I going to do with my existence, you know? So yeah, I feel like that kind of like lit that. Ultimately, like music is just it's such an interesting career path because it's like it's you can't if you're trying to do it, you can't hold back. It's really the kind of thing where it's like you have to, you know, you have to wake up ready to play every day. Like, you know, you can't, you know, it's not I didn't get my coffee today, so I'm just gonna slug through this one. Like, no, it's you gotta wake up ready to play every day because the next guy wants it as well. Like, you know, it's
True. Yes. Oh, that's a good reminder. Yeah. Mm. Um, oh, I had another question. It just escaped me. Um, was there a particular um sort of musical influence from this album? Like, I know myself, I go through periods where I listen to certain artists or genres or anything like that. Was there, yeah, a
yeah.
certain.
I feel like the blueprint for this album was definitely some old Drake stuff, like
Hmm.
just the way like the vibes are, like the moody. I feel like my production style is very much like Kanye West with sampling, with the chopping of vocals. Um, these days we just get all the samples from downloading them instead of off the records, but I
Right.
still try to find like I still try to find it like I'm finding it from a record. Like most of the stuff that's sampled on my album is probably before the 70s. So it's still like old stuff that I'm trying to like flip into something that's like, let's rap on it today. Um, so that vibe, I feel like, yeah, 40 Drake's engineer is um probably my favorite engineer right now. Like, and definitely someone I look up to as an engineer, someone that records and mixes music. So that's sonically the vibe direction I was modeling this after.
Hmm.
Um, and I ultimately feel like as I grow, I don't want to. I can hear when I even listen to it, and people who are familiar with 40's work can hear like like what I like the similarities, but ultimately I want to get to the point where just like 40 has this like his own, like he owns that sound, you know, like I want you to be able to listen to a Polo Show project and you know there's like a sound here that like people are trying to mimic because this is the original. But yeah, I have to get there. I can see like I see elements I can take from this now and like and that's anyways that's getting into other stuff like that's
Well, it's part of the journey, right? So you said it was your second album, and so you like developing your voice and stuff, um and your sound, and yeah, yeah, that's cool.
yeah. Thank you for listening to the album. Yeah, that's I think it's my best like body of work yet.
I'm the type of listener where I get an album and then I listen to it over and over and over and over again, and then I go on to the next one, and then save a couple songs. But yeah, I've been listening to it a lot, and I do get a sense that you had the mind of a body of work, like creating an album instead of nowadays. I find there's a lot of just one-off songs, and there's no um thought of the album. And even like you had a particular photo on your album cover, and so yeah, it's really good. Yeah,
Thank
there's a
you.
couple songs where I'm like, oh, I could really go somewhere and start dancing to some of the tunes. And what was the inspiration for the front cover?
So my homie, shout out Stefan Legacy. Um, he shot like every album cover I've done
Hmm.
since even my mixtapes. And yeah, he's just a really talented photographer I've known since high school. And yeah, like he heard kind of like a demo version of the album. I sent him on a private link with no cover, and he was like, "Yo, this is gonna be the cover," like and so like
Really? He had the
so
idea after listening to it.
yeah, and I
That's
was
really
like,
cool.
"All right." And I was like, even when he was telling me what it was, I was like, I just trust you. So I'm like, let's see what this is. And when he sent it to me, I'm like, yeah, this is fire. Like this is the cover. Like so, yeah. I didn't conceive that cover idea, but it's like ultimately it's like it's beautiful to me because it's like the title is Somewhere the Midnight Burns. And it's
Mm.
like it does have like the candles. And I feel like me kind of being in a tub topless is like a visual representation of like the vulnerability in the writing of the music.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so nice. Mm. I love hearing about all of this.
But
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's yeah. I had like a completely different idea for the cover we're not gonna get into, but like it wasn't even like just I knew it was gonna be a photo, but like yeah, this is why like the people who are good at doing what they do should do what they do. Like and like your ultimate job as a producer is to put together a team that can do all these parts well. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
it's like it used to be like, yo, I'll do everything. And it's like, it's the budget friendly way to say you're going to do everything. But it's like, is it the best way if we're trying to make like the, the best product possible? Cause that's what we're doing here. Like we're all like a chocolate factory and we're like Mars and Twix, like trying to make the best chocolate bar every day. Like so that the consumers are like, yo, I got to keep going back to these guys cause they got it right.
Yeah.
Anyways. Yeah. So that's, that's,
I like it.
that's what it is. But yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, like I'm glad I could share that with you. But yeah, I guess that brings us to the end of our podcast. This is getting to the bag. I go by Polo Show. Make sure to follow me on all social media platforms at Polo Show YYC. You can find my music at Polo Show. That's without a W. Um, and I'll let you plug your stuff.
Yeah, so I'm Sarah Jessie Tucker. My website is sjtwriting.ca. And you can find me on Instagram at sjtwriting. And yeah, that's me. Thank you for having me and talking.
Peace out. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. All right.